up, crypto people? It is the Crypto Siege with another day in the life and the crazy life that is a digital asset space. Good morning. It is 11:55 in the a.m. Central Time out here in the lovely state of Texas. Hope everyone is doing really, really awesome and really, really well today. Happy Sunday to each and every one of you. Listen, the market is doing what the market does. We'll go over that. And what is up with all of this? XRP price set is nonsense. Nonsense. What is going on with that? We're going to clear that up because I just think that people are just completely confused and don't understand what Jimmy Valley actually said on that interview, on an amazing interview with Leonard P. Jones. We're going to clear it up because people have got it twisted. They really, really have. Because when I hear things like market cap, impossible, arbitrary number, some arbitrary number that the government is going to set, I think people are just really, really missing it. So we're going to share Leonard P. Jones and Jimmy Valley, what he actually said, once again, in hopes that people will get it. And so what it's going to take really is people taking the time to really listen in to what is actually being said. And I get it, that's going to take you about 20 minutes. I know you're busy, and in the crypto world, we would just much rather run to crypto Twitter. But you don't want to do that. You want to really listen to the dude and what Jimmy Valley and what he's actually really saying. And I think it will clear some things up for you. So guys, listen, this is your XRP Ripple daily news. And around 0 to 10 minutes. So listen, the market is doing what the market does. The total cryptocurrency, well, the total Bitcoin dominance currently is 44.2%. Yeah, that's not a great number. The total cryptocurrency market cap is at 1.29 trillion. Previous all-time high, let us not forget, was 3 trillion, over 3 trillion. So this is just sideways movement. Shout out to the swing traders and the day traders of the world. I hope you are moving to the new 1%. Bitcoin is at $29,825 again. Ethereum is at $1,800 again. Guess what? XRP is at 39.5 cents again. The market, guys, is just doing what the market does. We can't forget about it. Yeah, this is definitely for us in the Crypto Siege home. This is a risk-off moment, if you will, de-risk moment, right? Getting more gold, getting more dirty, nasty fiat and put it into work for us in dividend paying, cash policies, massively important, dollar cost averaging into Bitcoin, things of that nature. Things of that nature we're doing because what the Fed is doing, just not great. And when you really look at the psychology of a bubble or market, stock market, you can kind of tell where we are. And this QT thing, I'm telling you, it's quantitative tightening. It's not going to be great. The housing market thing is going to happen. The bubble is. It's not if, it's just when. You know, the housing market bubble doesn't happen tomorrow. It takes months, 18, 24 months, but it's happening. We're starting to see it out in the West Coast and places like Oregon, right? It's starting to happen out in that direction. It'll eventually and gradually move to the East Coast. It's just the same old thing because the central banks of the world don't have a clue as to what they're doing. So it's just going to be a repeat of 2008 because they don't know what they're doing. That's the ultimate bottom line. That's the long and the short of it. That is a layman's way of putting it. They don't know what they're doing. So Jerome Powell has already said he's going to continue down the QT path, at least in the short term. Housing market will get affected by it. And people who have dirty, nasty fiat, got the stable coin positions, right? Got the gold kind of securing the value, right? You're not going to get wealthy from gold. but you can maintain your wealth from having it. Really like the idea of what Glint Pay is doing. Really, really like that. Looking to do some moves there. But I really do like what they're doing because it does make it spendable, which also says if you got something spendable that has already proven itself as a store of value, that means that the jury is not out yet on Bitcoin as being the digital gold. Like, got to get that. It hasn't won that battle. It may be the leading contender, but it hasn't won it. Gold has already won the store of value. It's already won, right? So it's a good hedge. We used to be a big time gold and silver guy, big time before we got into crypto. But in any case, the market again, guys, is doing what the freaking market does. I'm going to go over one thing or two things from Twitter, and remember, pay attention to this here because it's really, really important because it'll coincide, if you will, with Linda P. Jones' awesome interview with Jimmy Fallon. Okay, this is just really, we're not talking about hopping on some other network and collateralizing some other network. No, we're not, right? We're not going to hook up on Solana, right? We're not putting assets there, okay? So here it is. XRP Vampire, thanks for sharing. That's my guy. Ripple has partnered with the Digital Euro Association, the DEA, to jointly work on central bank digital currencies. The DEA, based in Frankfurt, Germany, is a think tank focused on CBDCs, stable coins, crypto assets, and other forms of digital money. I'm not going to read all this. I'm just going to read what the chairman said, and I'm just going to read what James Wallace said of Ripple. So the chairman of the DEA, the Digital Euro Association, said this: "We are thrilled that due to the partnership with Ripple, we can extend the technological expertise of the Digital Euro Association's community. As more and more CBD projects worldwide reach advanced stages, technological design of a CBDC will play a key role for policymakers in the near future, while previous years focused primarily on research." So he's saying he understands that this is where we're going, right? He realizes this is where we're going, and Ripple is in the lead on that. So when a central bank hears about a proposal, oh, you mean that, and you mean that? That's already been done with this central bank and already been done with this nation and already been done with that central bank? Oh, okay. All right. So this is from James Wallace, the VP of Central Bank Engagements at Ripple. We are excited to join the Digital Euro Association as a supporting partner to further develop. By the way, you want to listen to this video to the end so that you get the real deal. You got to understand the world, the real world in which we live in, not the one that's presented to you on crypto Twitter, not the world that's presented to you on CoinGecko. That's not the real world. All right, so we're excited to join the Digital Euro Association as a supporting partner to further develop our work in the CBDC area. The DEA is working across Europe and global markets to drive the development and growth of CBDCs and specifically the digital euro. Ripple has invested significantly in the CBDC world with a team of around 40 people globally helping develop and deliver solutions for CBDCs and stable coins. We look forward to working with the DEA to further our work on CBDCs over the next few months, right? Again, we're not talking about collateralizing the Solana blockchain or the Ethereum, God forbid, blockchain. I mean, can we even get to ETH 2.0 already? Like, what in the wide world? We're not talking about that. Okay. Okay. So look, let's get to Linda P. Jones. Awesome. Oh, thank you, Linda, for doing this. interview. Okay. Now, I get it. This is going to take about 15, 25 minutes of your time. But do you want to level up and understand what you hold? Like, know what you really hold? Or are you just going to run a crypto Twitter or some person doing something on YouTube who's taking snips and tidbits and whatever and not hearing it from directly from the source? Is it worth your time to know what it is that you truly hold? All right, let's go to 1954, and thank God.
Suing the we believe team.
Timestamp.
XRP is roughly 40 cents.
All right, listen on this question.
Why not use the best one, the most useful? Why not use the best? Why not use the best?
XRP is roughly 40 cents. And to come up with this 5-digit value, I think there was a lot of misunderstanding. People just really weren't following along with that whole process. So can you explain that a little bit more in detail?
Sure. So, so now we're kind of migrating through time a little bit, because I think when we came up with the terms of the deal, that was in August. So we're 6 months later, roughly. Yeah, 6 months later. So during that time, we're learning more about what's going on with the lawsuit. Number one, as an investment team, we were skeptical that we were going to be able to get justice through the court system, with the federal government being.
With an investment team, and just understand, in case you haven't listened to this from the beginning, Jimmy Valley's team is in the merger and acquisition business, right? The law firm. He's also a securities attorney, law firm, business. And what they do is they are in the business of evaluating companies, corporations, businesses. This is what they do for a living, in the billions of dollars per, right, deal. That's what they do, right? It's not a YouTuber. It's not a TA guy trying to determine the value. It's not developers, project heads of developers trying to determine the value of an asset. These guys are in the big boys world, right? Where the big boys play hugely and understand it. So you got to understand that whatever price they came up with, 35.5, 37.5, that is based upon their years of experience in doing a thing. Years, if not decades. I believe it's decades in doing a thing. Like, they take these things to court, right? To courts, federal judges, whatever it is, with evaluations that both sides of the table come to an agreement upon. You understand what I'm saying? All right, so let's listen. I think he's going to lay out his evaluation process here.
The adverse party, okay, in the lawsuit. So we suspected by that time there were some bad things going on that they hadn't bubbled up yet, but that basically the SEC would do all things they could to make this go on as long as possible. So that's a piece of it. So if you find yourself, you believe, and I will circle back to the value question, just trying to give people some context here. If you circle back to we believe the asset has a present value far in excess of what it's trading on the market is encumbered by the lawsuit, right?
Right.
As well as the unknown stuff that's behind the lawsuit that we didn't know. We know a lot more now, but we didn't know that.
We know about ETHgate now. We didn't know about it then.
To say it plainly, we know about ETHgate. We didn't know for sure that ETHgate existed at that time in the way that it's played out. There was a little bit of a, okay, how do we go about establishing fair market value in this context where, the government is basically suing the company and basically the way that was working? How do we, go about establishing fair market value?
And again, he's talking about how do we come to and evaluate fair market value, right? And I think it's just important to understand, the difference between that and a price set, right? I believe personally, like there are two different things. I believe a price set is something that the market and the masses deal with. A fair market value, right? A fair market value is something between two parties and they come to an agreement on something, on that value, right? There's two different things, there's two different worlds, right? So arbitrary is it. A fair market value of a thing is anything but some arbitrary number. It is anything but that, right? In this context, what Jimmy Valley is saying. So you got to get that, right? Fair market value, again, and especially in this quote unquote world, market mergers and acquisitions, if you will, as an example, is two parties agreeing upon a value of something. And it has nothing to do with the market, right? And the market is made up of the masses, right? It's very, very important to understand the distinctions, if you will. Price sets happen all the time in gold, oil, right? Every day there's a group of people that come together on that gold thing, set that price. And the masses now deal in the market based upon that price set, if you will. All right, let's listen to some more.
What fair market value is basically what a willing buyer and a willing seller are willing to trade at, having all of the information, right? So everybody would have known about Eastgate. And
I'll let him say it again, what this fair market value is. I know it's hard to kind of catch it if you're going, but listen to what Jimmy Valley says, what fair market value is. If I can get this to go.
Suing the company and basically the way that was working. How do we, go about establishing fair market value? What fair market value is basically what a willing buyer and a willing seller are willing to trade at, having all of the information, right? So everybody would have known about Eastgate, and everybody would have known about the private ledgers and things like that, things that we would come to learn later on down the road. But if everybody knew all that information and they weren't being compelled to transact, what would they transact at? And so that's the theory behind proposing a transaction, is to begin to establish what fair market value is outside the case. Keep in mind, there's been tons of damages, right? Like when we get to the end of this case and we look back and we've got all of the information about Eastgate, the corruption, all that stuff, it will be at that time that it occurs to everyone the trillions and trillions of dollars of damages that have occurred by basically not allowing XRP to have its true value.
That's right.
Notably because of the lawsuit. So it's going to be at that time that you're having to look back and say, well, what did people think the fair market value was at the time? Well, they won't be saying it's what the price was in a manipulated retail market that is through these exchanges, which we've come to understand are actually controlled by the same legacy banking system, right? So it had to be kind of that mindset. And then we went through a classic, valuation type exercise process. I think.
And also two things. He mentioned ETHgate, right? And he mentioned private ledgers, right? So two of those things are components in a fair market value. Well, what have been, or what are the damages caused by quote unquote ETHgate, right? What are the damages where you allow one digital asset to go and participate in the marketplace and another asset to not be able to not allow to go and participate in the marketplace, in that same marketplace, right? What was the harm caused by a United States government bringing a lawsuit? That is part of being able to determine fair market value. Private ledgers already established, right? Private ledgers already established that are moving value across it. The XRP ledger then has a value because it's moving value across the ledger and it's utilizing, right? XRP, however much is burnt, right? These are things that you can use to determine the fair market value. And then you can also do future evaluations, right? Do you see what I'm saying? And the other party looks at this list and says, check, okay, check, okay, check. But you got this price. I think it's more along this price for the harm or the damages, or you got this number, and we think it's this number based upon the damages from ETHgate. Okay, on the private ledger, you have this price, you have this value, we think it's this value, and then you come to an agreement. Has nothing to do with CoinGecko, has nada to do with CoinGecko. Okay, now he's going to tell you some other things that he used in the process.
I think when we initially proposed the transaction, September 13th of 2021, we had a $25,000, I think, per XRP price. It's basically valuing everything that had to get equitized, or at least most of it, to a $2.5 quadrillion, all the money type concept. We ultimately then in October, because we learned more about various things, but we ended up proposing a higher price. I think the last one was $37.5 that we proposed October 29th. We went through, there were several different kind of valuation methods we used. We looked at the AFNI Michnik model, which Susan Athey, I think is her name. She was a Stanford master's professor. She was on the board at Ripple. And then Robert Michnik, he was at Stanford in the master's program, I think, when they did their white paper on how to model digital asset or how to value digital assets. And they looked at Bitcoin and looked at XRP. So we had that. That was from 2018. We applied that same methodology and looking at stuff, but that model kind of looks at which I think is the way most people think about it, kind of this gradual adoption type of a process, right? So, it's going to start out at $1, go up to $5, $10, $20. That's the way most people think it's going to happen. We were basically trying to go to the end and say, no, what's the fully realized value?
What is the fully realized value? The fully realized value, right? So that's the future, the fully realized value of the XRP ledger and the digital asset XRP. That's what they were trying to do in evaluating how they came up to the price, right? Because that's what goes on in the big boy world. That's what goes on in the big boy world. right? That's the future evaluation, right? The long-term valuation. Let me have him say that again. Let me have him say that.
Or how to value digital assets, and they looked at Bitcoin and looked at XRP. So we had that. That was from 2018. We applied that same methodology and looking at stuff, but that model kind of looks at which I think is the way most people think about it, kind of this gradual adoption type of a process, right? So, it's going to start out at $1, go up to $5, $10, $20. That's the way most people think it's going to happen. We were basically trying to go to the end and say, no, what's the fully realized value of the ledger? And therefore, what's the implied value of an XRP? And basically discount. We did a discounted kind of a modified DCF, discounted cash flow type valuation as well. And then the other piece that was critical was this kind of this collateralization of the ledger.
Discounted cash flow, collateralization of the ledger. Again, not some arbitrary number. Realized market value. It's just not some number that they came up with, guys. It's really, really, really important to understand how they got to that number. They didn't just pick a number out of the blue, right? So we are so accustomed to the gradual adoption model, right? Because that's the world that you and I live in. That's the world in which the market lives in. But when you got sophisticated people doing arm's length transactions, they get realized market value of something, right? They're thinking in the future, right? This is why I showed you the article with Ripple partnering with the Digital Euro Association and the Digital Pound Association. That, my friends, is the making of realized market value. Right? You understand? You throw those things into the pot. Because the Digital Euro Association didn't hook up with the Ripple Cardano or the Solana blockchain. If it had, they would have been able to do something, but they didn't. Do you see what I'm saying? That's what he's considering in this ultimate fair market value, and that's what the big boys consider, right? People like the Federal Reserve and other central banks. That's what they take into consideration, right? So it's not about this, again, I want to point this out, that this agreement on fair market value has zero and nada to do with the market, right? And they're going to be in this quote unquote fair market value agreement among sophisticated, if you will, participants. That ain't the market. The market's not going to be involved in that. Like, you understand what I'm saying? Right? The market participants are going to be only people. The participants in this agreement are going to be only a certain group of people. It's going to be the person who proposed this agreement, the person who agrees on the agreement, and the market participants, the people who hold the asset. That's it. That is it. That is it. And the rest of the world is not going to know about it. Like, the rest of the world is not going to know about it because they weren't privy to the agreement. They weren't able to be a participant in the agreement. You understand? You and I come together on an agreement on something, The rest of the market is not privy to it. They're not participating. It's between you and I.
Which is, going back to a gold standard, or is it going to be just gold? Is it going to be gold, other precious metals, oil and gas? We thought for the Middle East countries to come along with this type of a thing, you would need to value oil and gas in the basket of precious commodities in order to figure out what each country's kind of in place resources are. But it was kind of that type of exercise. We had a lot of information. There was one document which anybody can go look up, still available on the web, called the All the Money infographic. We looked at all those sources. We brought those sources down because they were all old numbers, 2019 numbers, as I recall. So we had to bring those down to 2021. Those were kind of the three valuation models we looked at. Basically we put out that value, but there's other terms in the deal as well as far as consideration. You learn first year in law school in your property course, you learn about property being a bundle of sticks, okay? And so it's really just a bundle of separate rights. There's the rights to possess it. There's the rights to direct it. There's, and securities, you can vote them sometimes. You see what I'm saying? It's got all these indicia of property rights that are bundled into this asset, right? So one of the big things that XRP has, that several digital assets have, that XRP notably has, is the right to receive airdrops.
Okay, so that's another thing that they throw in there in evaluating the value, the fair market value, and they're using airdrops as an example. But so I hope you kind of understand what I'm saying. I'm going to go to the most important part here. This will only take about 5 minutes, but I want you to look. Price set for me in my brain. Price set is something that the market is dealing with, and a fair market value is something two or more parties agree upon something based upon several factors and evaluating it. Okay, so let me go on here and go to the
debt, but that would hurt the investor.
Now, and so the other, and what he also explains in here, I think is important, is really kind of getting across, why would the Fed and or central banks kind of agree to that, like to that fair market value? What are they going to get on their end of it? And Linda spelled it out about, the central banks, governments of the world, central banks and the governments of the world, and their debt challenge, ridding themselves of this debt based upon collateralized stuff on the ledger, and the ledger moving those things of value. And so the fair market value of that ledger and its digital asset, there's a value component to that. Okay, so let me show you what the big boys do.
I guess more of your retail, everyday consumer people would, have not only the debt burdens on them, these taxing burdens relieved from them, and gosh, just imagine the uplift in humanity of being free from taxes alone. Everybody was going to benefit in a very, very positive way, even though the XRP token holders were going to materially benefit in a very major way.
Yes. So I think what people had a hard time wrapping their head around was the fact that XRP was selling for, let's say, under $1, and you were proposing $35,000, let's say, and why couldn't the Fed just buy it off the exchanges? But it's not about them buying it off the exchange or buying it in that way. It's about retiring their debt and getting rid of the total debt that's outstanding. And that's the disconnect that I think most people
retiring their debt and getting rid of the outstanding debt. A new monetary policy, a new monetary economy, whatever you want to say, right? Are we moving to this digital asset world economy or not? Right? So that's the benefit to the central bankers and or governments of the world, that debt burden being relieved of that debt burden. And because they see, again, the realized value of putting everything on the ledger, knowing that this ledger can move anything of value in 3 to 5 seconds for less than a penny. For realizing the fair market value of a crypto that can take China's yuan and turn it into US freaking dollars, or whatever this US Fed coin thing is going to be. There's value in that, in less than 3 to 5 seconds for less than a penny. And the more XRP that you may have, the more valuable it is to you. That's what it is. That's, in my opinion, is why the Fed is willing to do, would be willing to do this. The Fed, US Treasury, whatever, central banks and other governments of the world. And again, in my opinion, whether it be the G7 nations or the G20 nations of the world, they're not going to, when they say Ripple and XRP and the XRP ledger, they are not going to say, what? Who? They're not going to say that. The World Bank is not going to say, who is Ripple and what is this asset called the XRP? The World Bank ain't going to say that. The IMF ain't going to say that. The Bank of England ain't going to say it. The Monetary Authority of Singapore is not going to say it. The Bank of Japan is not going to say it. Do you understand what I'm saying? They're going to be, oh, yeah, got it. I'm not saying that this is a likely thing. What I'm saying, it is a very, 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 I believe it's a possible thing. And that he is saying that this is a valuation, right? It didn't just pick a number, that they did some big time due diligence based upon their experience on how to value a thing, right? How to value and evaluate a thing. But listen to this.
Really didn't understand that. I want to make sure that we describe clearly here.
Mm-hmm.
Listen to Jimmy.
We tried very hard to get all this out even before we ever threw the deal out there. You know, get these concepts of how do you establish fair market value for an asset and things like that. And, you know, unfortunately, we just live in a time that we read headlines and we hear sound bites, and that's what informs us.
Yeah, I think I just said that earlier in the beginning. We read headlines and you check out these sound bites, and that's what informs us. I just think this price set thing is it's off. Like it's like that thinking is off, in my opinion. It's about evaluating and coming up with a fair market value amongst, you know, 2 or more parties coming into an agreement, and who, if any, who, if any, will be market participants in that agreement.
There's not a lot of pulling back the onion one layer and going a little deeper. But you're right. The driver for the Fed, think about it as a legacy banking system, to do the transactions, because they were going to be able to set the price in a way that established fair market value for the asset and effectively collateralized the debt, right? So if most debt is synthetic, it suddenly was supported by an asset. But you had to do that in an arm's length transaction. That's part of it. And then, you know, the kind of sub pieces of this is if you're using resources that are available to you, like agencies of the government, to do things like bring lawsuits, that then effectively puts a cloud on title. The reason XRP today is, I didn't look at it today, 40 cents or whatever, right? The reason it's that is because the institutions have no regulatory clarity. They can't really get into it in a material way because there's effectively a cloud on title. What is the regulatory treatment of XRP? It's still not, nobody knows that. Nobody knows that definitively, right? We need to come to an agreement on that as a collective marketplace, but nobody knows what that is. So the price that we see right now, I don't know how to say it more plainly, is that ain't the price.
The price that we see right now, I don't know any other way how to say it other than that ain't the price. Right? Now listen to this next thing here. So very important to understand.
We have done transactions in XRP just like we do with barrels of oil, with cubic feet of gas and stuff like that, where we have priced XRP in a contract with another party for values that are far in excess of what it's ever traded for.
We entered into an agreement by way of a contract with other parties for a price that has far exceeded the price that XRP has ever been. Do you think that was some arbitrary number where those two parties came to an agreement on? Meanwhile, you and I are buying XRP at the set price of the market, right? In other words, with CoinGecko and CoinMarketCap, God, I can't believe I said that, and CMC, and all those others, right? Do all those little evaluations and come up with like, yeah. And that's the price that you and I deal with, right? But this dude just said that he and other parties, by way of contract, came to an agreement on the fair market value of XRP, and it was significantly higher than the price that XRP has ever been. So what's the difference between Jimmy Valley and some other party coming up with a fair market value of XRP, and Jimmy Valley and his people and his investment team doing it with another party? It ain't going to change the market price on CoinGecko. Let me say that again. It's not going to change the market price on CoinGecko. If that was the case, why didn't the price change when Jimmy Valley went into a contract agreement based upon the fair market value of XRP that far exceeds the price that XRP has ever been? Why didn't that change the market? Why didn't it change on Coinbase and Binance, on CoinGecko? Yet the transaction still happened. It's not important to understand why, as we like to say, I wouldn't sign up for that class. It is what it is. So don't think some arbitrary number that the government is saying. That ain't how it works, my dude. This is a fair market value based upon realized market value of an asset. That's what it is. So if you're thinking, and I'm kind of thinking, well, the way I see this is that if something like this is to happen, the world ain't gonna know. Does the world hold XRP? I mean, I ask you, does the world own XRP? Did you and I know about the agreement that Jimmy Valley entered in with several other parties by way of contract on a price that far exceeds the price that XRP has ever been? You and I know about that? Were we able to participate in it? Were we able to sell our 20 cent, 25 cent, 30 cent XRP to that party for that price? No, we weren't participants in that agreement. And Jimmy Valley is going to go on to say, just in case you don't believe me, I'll play it for you. He is going to go on and say that this happens every day, all the time. There's nothing about network adoption going on, right? This doesn't affect network adoption. That agreement that Jimmy Valley made doesn't affect network adoption. It doesn't change Ripple's business model. Like Ripple somehow is going to go under now. It has nothing to do with it. Let me let Jimmy tell you.
And that's because the party on the other side wanted the XRP, right? And we were in a position to be able to sell them material amounts of XRP. And vice versa. We've received XRP at values that are called off-market values. This is happening all the time. This happens in markets every day.
And that, my friends, is just the real world that we live in, that unfortunately you and I are not in a position to participate. And what Jimmy, just like Linda Jones said, Jimmy Valley was looking to do the XRP community, which includes himself, a service by making this proposal based upon his years of expert experience on doing such a thing. And he laid out for you in this interview a couple of reasons why the Fed might be interested in such a proposal. I mean, it really is, it's just as simple as that. Fed, US Treasury, doesn't matter. They're in trouble. The central banks and the governments of the world are in trouble. Jimmy and his investment team thought of a proposal to help them, and it made sense to them, so they struck it up, put it together, and sent it out. Doesn't mean that the Fed and the central banks of the world will come to an agreement on that. But I do believe they're going to look at it seriously. I really, really do believe it, because I think if they didn't take it seriously, they would have gotten a response back on it already. I really, really do believe it. And maybe something crazy has to happen for the central bankers of the world and the governments of the world to look at that proposal seriously, like perhaps Russia defaulting on its payments, whether it be on the bonds, interest on the loans, whatever it is, because that will start a cascading effect, no different than Bear Stearns. No different than what happened to Lehman's. No different. Again, think about if Russia was able, you see the games going on. Russia's like, we got this oil gas thing. This is our thing. This is our commodity. This is the thing that we have most of, whatever it is. Yeah, we're not, you're going to apply sanctions on us. We're not taking your dirty, nasty euro or your dirty, nasty US dollar. No, no, no. We wanted them rubles. The US is saying, yeah, we're not taking your ruble. Your payment is due to us in dollars. And oh, by the way, we're not giving you access to any of those dollars. We're not giving you any access to those dollars. But if they were on and the parties were involved in participating on the XRP ledger, Russia would not need to go into default, and the United States could be made whole on their payment. Right? Because of the awesomeness that is the XRP ledger, being able to move anything of value in 3 to 5 seconds for less than a freaking penny. That, my friends, could easily be deemed systemically, like our friend BK says all the time, systemically important. Russia says, cool, you don't want our rubles? We're going to put our rubles on the XRP ledger. XRP is going to change that ruble to US dollars. Here you go. See you later. I mean, why in the world would the US say, oh, no, 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 you can't pay us in anything but dollars, and then restrict them from access to the dollars? Does the US want to get paid or not? Or is there something else in mind? Is it just because they want to say Russia's in default or something? It's interesting to me because the ledger is open source. Can't they just hop on that thing anytime they want? Right? It's interesting. It's very, very interesting to me. And I think personally, I think this is all about going to a new financial system. You can call it a reset if you want. Cool. But they're going to move to a new financial system. And when I see articles like, you know, Ripple hooking up with the Digital Pound Foundation and Ripple hooking up with the Digital Euro Association, it says to me that that Ripple and its technology is the favorite. And if you and I know that the XRP ledger can move anything of value in 3 to 5 seconds for less than a penny, they know it too. The World Bank knows it, the IMF knows it, the Bank of England knows it, the Monetary Authority of Singapore knows it. Yeah. And just like Susan Anthony and Mitch Nick came to an evaluation, right? The central bank governments and central banks and governments of the world can put their own team together and come up with a value, a fair market value for this asset and this, this XRPL ledger. Easily they can come up with it. And you just kind of come to an agreement. Maybe Jimmy Valley sent out 20 things, and the central bankers of the world, including the Fed, say, we think 18 is more appropriate. And then of those 18, you come up with this number, we think it's this number. It really isn't that hard. Is it likely? I don't know. But I feel like there's a reason why Ripple is going around from nation to nation from nation to nation, setting up an infrastructure. Right? You get that, right? They're going around from country to country, nation to nation, setting up infrastructure. That's what they're doing. We could say partnerships, and it sounds good, and it's great for Ripple to say, you know, we've gone from 300 to 400. All that's awesome. But ultimately, they're setting up a new infrastructure for a new financial system. That's what they're doing. All right, guys, listen, I'm going to end this video like I do all of my freaking videos. All of my freaking videos. You know what? I think I'm going to do this. Let's see if I should do this. That's not it. Maybe I don't have it any longer. I don't. So anyway, I'm going to end this video like I do all of my freaking videos and remind you guys of this, that old money doesn't want you to win. But that's okay, though, because you and I are already winning. Have a great rest of the day, guys. I will talk to you soon. See ya. Bye.